Whether you're a Republican or independent and a few Democrats, you want a nation that the law and order applies to all Americans fairly.
It's about time, brother.
Justice system in New York and the DOJ continues to make President Trump into a victim.
Oh, hell no. This all started this week when an appeals court slashed Donald Trump's original $454 million bond by more than 2/3 to $175 million in his New York civil fraud lawsuit, which was a tragic result for comedy fans everywhere who yearn to see a man once convicted of housing discrimination against black people get his property seized by a black woman. I mean, how could you? How could you? That kind of irony don't just pop up every day. I mean, maybe if the feds raiding Diddy's properties are yelling, take that, take that, take that, take that. But by the way, that makes him the first person I've ever heard just get their bond slashed just because. I guess going to the news and claiming to be broke really does have its benefits. It's not all about child support. Now, we may still get a chance to see it, though, so stay tuned. Letitia James may have her day in the sun, but the reduced bond offers him a financial lifeline, given that he claimed not to have the cash on hand to cover the original amount. What? That can't be right. He always bragging about how rich.
I love other people's money.
Ah, now I get it. Still, that's fortunate, because you never know where he might get that money.
Is there any effort on the part of your team to secure this money through another country, Saudi Arabia or Russia, as Joy Behar seems to think?
Well, there's rules and regulations that are public. I can't speak about strategy.
Would you ever accept money from a foreign government to pay the bond or your fines or anything?
No, I don't do that. I think you'd be allowed to, possibly. I don't know. I love other people's money.
The decision sets the stage for Trump's criminal trial, scheduled to begin on April 15th in New York.
Emily, you pointed out he's also said respect to the court. He will do what he is told to do. And you think that works for him?
I do, and I think it's significant because it's in contrast to what many members of the Democrat Party do, which is say, I'm not complying, Hunter Biden. The Supreme Court justices are off their rocker, President Biden. Right? We have a lot of examples of people who disrespect the court when they disagree with their ruling. President Trump is not one of them.
Who gonna tell her?
Respect the appellate division for substantially reducing that ridiculous amount of money that was put on by a corrupt judge named Engoron. He ought to be looked at, seriously looked at, especially what he did with valuations. He's the one, he's a fraudulent valuator. Because it's a setup, it's a rigged trial. We have a hostile group of people, we have a very hostile judge.
How long has her cable been cut off?
I have the worst judge in the whole country, and I have a trial going on, a fake trial, a totally fake trial. And we asked the judge if I could take a day off for a funeral of my mother-in-law, who was very close to me also. And he said, no. Can you imagine? These are animals. But I also knew we have a corrupt judge. He's not a respected man.
Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
Oh, maybe what she meant was he didn't disrespect the judge today, right? That's MAGA logic. If it's not happening right now, this moment, then it doesn't exist. What is it? Nighttime there? Ain't no sun. Ain't no sun. It doesn't exist. Fake news.
Businesses are fleeing and crime is flourishing all over the state, and what he's done is such a disservice and should never be allowed to happen again.
And there it is.
But Judge Engoron is a disgrace to this country. We have a judge who I believe is a crooked judge and a crooked attorney general. Absolutely crooked.
Couldn't help himself. He couldn't help himself. He's like an addict.
This is a pure case of voter intimidation and election interference.
I'm sorry. Did he say election interference? You mean like this?
We've now learned that there was this big effort by the former administration, the senior people in the former administration, to interfere with the vote counts on the state level.
Or like this.
Now it is up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down. Anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol.
Or like this. Okay, go on.
If this was a case could have been brought 3.5 years ago, and they decide to wait now, just during the election, so that I won't be able to campaign. We'll be appealing this.
Yeah, you can't appeal this, but I know that you'll try, just like how you're trying to convince everybody that you're a victim of a two-tiered justice system.
I think the bigger concern here, though, is the two-tiered system of justice.
This is manifest injustice. It is impossible. It's an impossibility. I believe they knew that. I think everything is done intentionally. I do not doubt that the witch hunt, that the election interference goal is what was ringing steady and loudly and true throughout all these trials, frankly. And we're seeing it. It's the demise of our country, not the demise of Trump.
Justice system in New York and the DOJ continues to make President Trump into a victim. And whether you're a Republican or independent and a few Democrats, you want a nation that the law and order applies to all Americans fairly, and we are watching with our own eyes.
I think that's true.
Yes, the two-tier justice system, because who among us hasn't walked around free on bond with 91 cases under their belt? I don't know a single person. Well, maybe Diddy. Maybe Diddy could have walked around with 91 cases.
He did that shit. Guilty as fuck.
Now, in addition to all of the credible SA allegations that he's out from under, look, we would have been in jail just from the Access Hollywood tape.
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it.
And I don't mean being caught on the Access Hollywood tape. I thought I would get arrested just from listening to the Access Hollywood tape. A two-tier justice system is half a squadron showing up to accost Eric Garner for selling Lucy cigarettes, him losing his life, and nobody being held accountable for it, except for, of course, the citizens of New York, by and large, who objected to the way the whole thing was handled. A two-tier justice system is Khalif Browder sitting in jail without being convicted of a crime. Why don't we look at how many people in New York State are sitting in jail not being convicted of a crime to pressure them into taking a plea? Well, how about your boy Rudy Giuliani and the stop and frisk? Speaking of a two-tier justice system, which was focused on black and brown citizens. How about Crystal Clanton? You know, the law clerk just hired by Clarence Thomas, who had her text leak where she said, "I hate black people, F them, all of them." Yeah, she worked on cases involving black defendants, and those defendants won't get their cases reopened because Clarence Thomas said so. That's a two-tier justice system. How about the state of Mississippi and District Attorney Doug Evans systematically excluding black jurors? Oh, the fact that those convicted stayed in jail for years before this was even uncovered, or that the man in charge will have little to no punishment for playing with people's lives and freedom. Thanks for playing, Doug. This is what a two-tiered justice system looks like. But don't get it twisted what tier you're on, because Donnie, if you were on the other tier, we wouldn't be seeing an impromptu press conference. We would be reading letters.
And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against.
Well, where was this when we were in the streets begging for justice and you were talking about law and order?
And we'll bring crime back to law and order. We're going to get those words law and order back.
And you're still there talking about law and order, you know, when you're not in front of us.
And if I were not running, or if I were doing poorly like everyone else has done, because they're all gone, they're all knocked out except for crooked Joe Biden. If I were doing poorly, this wouldn't be happening. None of these trials would have been happening. If I wasn't running, they wouldn't be happening.
Oh, so it's political. Well, last I checked, rich and white worked in our two-tier justice system, whether you're in the conservative country club or the liberal social club. But I get it. When you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression.
If you bless Israel, I will bless you. If you curse Israel, I will curse you.
Is this what our tax dollars is paying for? As some of you know, I'm an alumnus of Columbia University, which has been in the news lately, hitting a crescendo on April 18th when Columbia President Manoush Shafiq wrote the NYPD regarding a group of students who the day before had established a Gaza solidarity encampment in protest of Israel's operation in Gaza and Columbia's investments in companies allegedly profiting from the war. Now, the Israeli assault on Gaza, which was launched in response to Hamas's October 7, 2023 terrorist attack, has killed thousands of civilians and created a humanitarian crisis. Shafiq accused the Columbia students of trespassing on their own campus. She requested the, quote, NYPD's help to remove these individuals as they were not authorized to protest on the lawn and posed what she called a clear and present danger. Now, there's a whole lot to unpack here. For one, the idea of students trespassing on their own campus, a place that their parents are paying upwards of $60,000 for them to be. There's the issue of the First Amendment, where right-wing mega donors have ensured that people had to deal with Ben Shapiro and Milo Yiannopoulos appearing on their campus and just swallow it because it was free speech. Then you have the policy, the one that she pointed to, which limits protests to designated areas, that was only put in place in February, which I'll be honest, seems quite suspicious. That seems quite suspicious. This policy was put into place seemingly specifically for this particular incident and the fallout. I would also add the approach seems odd considering their objections. They had very real objections, and opposed to acknowledging those objections, you just try and squash the protests. Well, NYPD responded to the request by descending on the university and arresting 108 students. Some students were restrained in zip ties for several hours and transported to a local police precinct before being released. Shafiq also said that all students participating in the encampment have been suspended for an indefinite period. Now, one possible justification could be anti-Semitism and other students feeling unsafe on campus, as everyone should feel safe on a college campus. Yet, according to the NYPD, the protest was entirely nonviolent. According to NYPD Chief John Schell, to put this in perspective, the students that were arrested were peaceful, offered no resistance whatsoever, and were saying what they wanted to say in a peaceful manner. And as we know, the police and the NYPD specifically are not shy when they want to claim that somebody was violent, whether they were or they weren't. They weren't going along with this at all. So what was this really about? Well, Shafiq claimed that she complied with the requirements of Section 444 of the university statutes, which requires consultation with the university's Senate Executive Committee. Yet, according to Janine Darmento, chair of the committee, the executive committee did not approve the presence of NYPD on campus. But I think I do know what it's about, because the day before the NYPD raid, Shafiq testified for 3 hours before the Republican-controlled House Committee on Education. The hearing was modeled after prior hearings that forced the presidents of Harvard and the University of Pennsylvania to resign. And if you followed either of those two cases, you know exactly how much of a sham all of this was, specifically in the case of Claudine Gay at Harvard, where they're starting with anti-Semitism and then it devolving into a discussion about DEI and allowing Alicia Fonik to slam dunk on her university because she was deemed too uncouth to stay on the board. So, and if you're wondering if this particular hearing involving Columbia University was any more substantive than those, bear in mind, at one point, Congressman Rick Allen of Georgia, and Georgia, I really need to know what's going on in your state. This isn't even Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is a whole different congressman. At some point, Rick Allen of Georgia told Shafiq that in the Bible, God is real clear that, quote, if you bless Israel, I will bless you. And if you curse Israel, I will curse you.
If you bless Israel, I will bless you. If you curse Israel, I will curse you.
He then asked Shafiq if she wanted Columbia University to be cursed by God, to which she said,
definitely not.
Okay.
Is this what our tax dollars is paying for? Like, is this really what our tax dollars is paying for? Foreign policy dictated by the Bible. Is this where we're at? And I will say, this is actually telling. This is actually instructive to how we got into this place. How do you justify our continued involvement with Israel with the Bible? Because God said, if you bless Israel, I will bless you. And if you curse Israel, I will curse you. That is as good a justification as I've ever gotten from Congress. Now, according to the health ministry, more than 34,000 Palestinians in Gaza, most of them women and children, have been killed in the conflict. And the rhetoric coming from the people who sent money and weapons and technology to create this destruction is, if you bless Israel, I will bless you. Shafiq's actions were blasted in a statement issued on Friday by the Columbia and Barnard College chapters of the American Association of University Professors. The CU Student Council also released a statement reading that students possess the inherent right to engage in peaceful protest without fear of retribution or harm, and called for the preservation of freedom of speech and expression among students. You know, the kind of thing that right-wingers are always railing for when it comes to them potentially being canceled. Now, in the wake of mass arrests, the protests on the South Lawn have continued and inspired others to protest in solidarity across the globe. In addition to NYU, encampments have been set up at California, Berkeley, MIT, University of Michigan, Emerson College, Tufts, and the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. In New Haven, Connecticut, at least 47 people were arrested at Yale on Monday morning after setting up an encampment on campus Friday night. Brown, Princeton, and Northwestern held protests on Friday and over the weekend, and support is even garnered as far away as the University of Sydney. Now, the scene at NYU was particularly compelling, with NYPD coming in to clear the encampment during prayer. The visual itself was quite stark. And yet, the answer to all of it nationwide has been allegations of anti-Semitism. There you have it. Even President Biden got in on the act. On Sunday, the White House released a statement in response to the protests at Columbia denouncing calls for violence and physical intimidation targeting Jewish students, which I'll say was a bit weird considering the NYPD statement. They specifically said that nobody they arrested was violent. Some media outlets are interpreting as a response to this video in which two unidentified men promised more terrorist attacks against Israel.
Never forget the 7th of October. Never forget the 7th of October.
Now, according to the individual who posted the video, the incident did not occur on Columbia's campus, and there's no evidence that Columbia students were involved in any way. Immediately after this statement was put out, the hashtag Charlottesville was trending, with people juxtaposing Biden's reaction to Trump's reaction in Charlottesville. But there's one very specific stark difference I would like to note. Whereas in Charlottesville, Trump was defending the actions of the protesters, that being his base and making sure they knew that he was going to protect them. In this particular case, Biden's objection, his vulnerability going into the 2024 election, is from the far left. Those are the people that were protesting, and those were the people that he was willing to adopt the worst assumptions about when he made that statement. And that's one of many reasons why he finds himself in the situation he finds himself in right now, a few months away from the election. Dr. Shafiq said tensions on campus had been exploited and amplified by individuals who are not affiliated with Columbia, who have come to campus to pursue their own agendas. And we know that to be true. We've seen it before. In 2020, you have just straight up anarchists who just want to see the world burn that will show up because this is a perfect outlet for their madness. You have the extremists, the kind of people that aren't necessarily associated with any particular Columbia group, but they've had these deep-seated feelings for a long time, and this is the closest they'll get to actually being able to express it. And then you have people that, quite frankly, are counter-protesters that will be here just in order to make the protesters look bad. We saw all of this in 2020 when we were in the streets marching for Black lives. But what I will say to Dr. Shafiq, I totally agree that the tensions have been exploited and amplified by individuals that are not affiliated with Columbia. But why didn't you take that to heart before you called the NYPD to start arresting folks and start suspending people for indefinite periods of time? You're not taking your own words to heart. Even so, I can't dispute the feelings of Jewish students who feel unsafe on campus any more than somebody could dispute my feelings. But I also cannot dispute how much the clear purpose of the protests has been repeatedly swept aside and ignored for the more convenient target of stamping out anti-Semitism. They've made clear their objection to U.S. foreign policy and war profiteering on the part of the universities, and there's nothing anti-Semitic about that. For years, we could never have a nuanced discussion about Israel and Palestine without accusations of anti-Semitism drowning out any criticism of Israeli action, because apparently it was anti-Semitic to disagree with Benjamin Netanyahu. Maybe Rick Allen can find that passage in the Bible. Well, that's not working anymore, and clearly we're not prepared to handle that any more than Congressman Rick Allen. Columbia, by the way, has been here before. In 1968, massive student demonstrations over the university's ties to the Vietnam War and its plans to build a segregated school gym on public land also led to hundreds of arrests. In the end, administrators ended the school's relationship with a war-connected think tank, but the upheaval soured Columbia's relationship with many rich donors, crippling the university's finances. Now, that's a little odd. You know, one might think the relation to the think tank or the segregated gym might cause donors to back off, but no, it was the objection to it that caused them to back off, which quite frankly is both disgraceful and damning of us as a society. Now, if I told you there was already financial fallout for Columbia University for the most recent protest, then what would you guess the reason for that would be? Go ahead and rack your brain. What would you guess the reason for the current financial fallout? Quote, "I am deeply saddened at the virulent hate that continues to grow on campus and throughout our country. I am no longer confident that Columbia can protect its students and staff, and I'm not comfortable supporting the university until corrective action is taken." That was New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft, former student and supporter, announcing his decision to pull that financial support. In October, former U.S. Ambassador John Huntsman pledged to stop giving money to the University of Pennsylvania, where he was once a student and where his family has been prominent donors for years. Shortly thereafter, billionaire hedge fund founder Leon Cooperman, a Columbia graduate, said he would no longer give money to the university. Yet no donors have stopped giving money to protest Israel's operations in Gaza or Columbia's investments in companies allegedly profiteering from the war. And that's how we got here.
One of the things I say in response to the media is when they talk about, or especially early on, about the way I did my job, I said, I will absolutely leave the court when I do my job as poorly as you do yours.
Well, Clarence, I think we've reached that point. Let's just say for a moment, I want to give Clarence Thomas the benefit of the doubt. We're not a monolith. It just so happens that the highest ranking black judicial officer in the land just so happens to side against the goodwill of black people always. Well, maybe there's aspects of the law we just don't understand. Then this happened. Justice Clarence Thomas has appointed Crystal Clanton as one of his law clerks, one of only 36 chosen each year from the entire pool of law graduates. Crystal Clanton, that name rings a bell. Of course it does. This is the same Crystal Clanton who had her racist text messages revealed for all the world to see, including one reading, quote, "I hate black people," in all caps, like F them all. You know what? Tell us how you really feel, Crystal. Actually, you know what? Never mind. You just did. By the way, the texts were originally uncovered by The New Yorker during an investigation into Turning Point USA, where she was the field director. Now, speaking of black people and hate, this gets better. Clanton actually lived with Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and his wife, Jenny. In 2022, a federal judicial panel ordered that an investigation be launched into Clanton's past. And guess who vouched for her and helped get the whole investigation dropped? You know what? If you guessed Uncle Ruckus, you were close, but not self-hating enough. The correct answer was Clarence Thomas. Clarence put on the Captain Salem cape and swooped in like a crow, saying, I know Crystal Clanton and I know bigotry, and bigotry is antithetical to her nature. Man, he put those tap shoes to work. Then he gave her a job. And because of this intervention, none of the cases this self-professed hater of all black people worked on will be reviewed. Now, let me repeat that for those in the back. A law clerk who herself admitted she hated black people worked on cases involving black people, and those cases won't be reviewed because Clarence Thomas said so. America. Now, let me ask you another question. How could a woman who hates black people live with and work for a black man? The only answer I can come up with is because he hates black people too, and not in the Chris Rock way.
Okay.
Thomas actually hates both groups. Now, under normal circumstances, a Supreme Court justice consorting with and then hiring somebody who's shown such clear bias would be a scandal, but not if that justice is black. And now you see the value in Clarence Thomas. Oh, no, it can't be racist because Clarence said it's fine. Now, his betrayal started a long time ago. Before the Supreme Court, Thomas worked on the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission during the Reagan administration, where he fought the use of class action lawsuits to enforce workplace discrimination laws. In 2013, Thomas voted with the majority in Shelby County versus Holder to gut the Voting Rights Act, arguing that racism in voting no longer existed. This action and misguided ruling allowed Southern states in particular to advance rapid-fire voter ID laws and voter suppression tactics designed to limit black access to the ballot. Which brings us to affirmative action. Oh, what's that, Clarence? You would like to say a few words? Okay, you have the floor.
It goes back to the thing about affirmative action. You have to believe in affirmative action because we think you ought to believe in affirmative action. Well, how's that different from slavery? How's that different from segregation? How's that different from being told you can't walk across that park? Oh, you can't think those thoughts. How's it any different? You know what? I'd prefer to be excluded from the park.
Wait, you don't believe in affirmative action? But aren't you the same guy who said in 1983, as head of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, that affirmative action laws were of, quote, paramount importance? But for them, God only knows where I would be today, end quote. That was you, right? Oh, I get it. Yeah, your thoughts have evolved since moving up through the ranks to the top. It used to be, thank God for affirmative action, and now it's, I don't believe in it. So you climbed all the way up the ladder and then knocked it down. It don't get more crabs in a barrel than that. I've been wanting to address Clarence Thomas ever since that ProPublica report about him accepting payments. Oh, y'all don't remember? I can understand because filth been collecting around Clarence Thomas like charges on Donald Trump. But that's no problem, Donald Trump. Your good old buddy Clarence can't help you get out of because that's why Clarence is there, right? Now, ProPublica's report disclosed that over 20 years ago, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas expressed concerns about his salary to a Republican congressman. Following this, Thomas received an extensive array of gifts from friends and associates, particularly right-wing billionaires, including luxury travel, tuition payments, and other support. So Clarence was like, that is a nice conservative majority you got there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. Now, Thomas voiced dissatisfaction with his salary of $173,000 in the year 2000, which is equivalent to over $300,000 today. Details of Thomas's financial discussions, his interest in earning additional income, and attempts to lift restrictions on justices giving paid speeches were all illuminated. And all this time, I thought Clarence Thomas just hated himself for being black. Turns out he just loves money more than anything. And I mean anything. I don't call people sellouts often, but Clarence's soul is literally for sale. to the highest bidder. Shockingly, Thomas's financial situation notably improved during his later years on the bench. I've seen estimates as high as $80 million, with significant payments for his memoir and undisclosed expensive gifts, raising ethical concerns amid an ongoing ethics crisis involving gifts received by Thomas and fellow Justice Samuel Alito from wealthy conservatives with interests before the court. And I never thought I'd see the day when the Supreme Court is so corrupt, investigators have to look into billionaires flying them out like Instagram baddies. If this was any other job, security would be escorting Clarence Thomas out the building, possibly in handcuffs. And for some reason, America thought it was a good idea to make Supreme Court justices almost untouchable, as if that kind of power would never corrupt somebody. Representatives like Bill Pascrell Jr. have called for Thomas's resignation, alleging corruption and highlighting the coincidental timing of Thomas's complaints and the subsequent flow of gifts from right-wing billionaires. But Clarence Thomas is not resigning on his own. Not when he's raking in money like that. They're going to have to figure out something. Otherwise, Clarence is showing up to work to vote for whoever pays him the most. And we know exactly who that is. Oh, you thought he was going to recuse himself from deliberations involving Trump? Oh, because of his conservative donors. Or maybe because his wife pressed White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Texting him November 5th, Biden crime family and ballot fraud co-conspirators, elected officials, bureaucrats, social media censorship mongers, fake stream media reporters, etc., are being arrested and detained for ballot fraud right now and over the coming days, and will be living in barges off Gitmo to face military tribunals for sedition. Then, November 6th, do not concede. It takes time for the army who is gathering for his back. And then again, November 10th, help this great president stand firm, Mark. You are the leader with him who is standing for America's constitutional governance at the precipice. The majority knows Biden and the left is attempting the greatest heist of our history. And those are just the texts that don't involve QAnon and deep state conspiracies. Oh, you think he should recuse himself? Oh, the man has a job to do. And he's going to make sure they get their money's worth and cover for their anti-blackness. Who better than a black man?
Rumors are true. I am free. Welcome to my locals page. So much to talk about. Obviously, I'm going to take a couple of weeks here just to rebuild and to refocus and to create something that is actually mine.
Representative.
And something that can't be threatened or taken because it belongs to me. I can't tell you enough how much your support has meant to me over the years.
Representative!
You can support me and my work as an independent journalist, as an independent podcaster. We're still going to be doing 5 days a week. There'll be tons of announcements coming in the next couple of weeks.
Representative! 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 Now let's check and see how old Candace is doing. Oh, not that old Candace, but Caribbean? Really? All right, let's see how Candace Owens' new grift is holding up. The most brutal smears I ever faced was the media's attempt to convince black people, my own community, ain't nobody tell me that she was moving into the community. I had no idea. You would think the HOA would have sent a notice or something. As many emails as they send out, they ain't send me nothing about Candace Owens coming into the community. We ain't have no meeting with the sheriff, nothing, just pop up. Don't they need signatures when a Candace Owens is coming into the community? You can't just plop a Candace Owens in the middle of the community and expect me to be okay. That affects my property value. I mean, really, of all the disrespect. The most brutal smears I ever faced was the media's attempt to convince black people, my own community, that I hated them. Finally, Black America is recognizing they were intentionally misled, thanks in large part to the Breakfast Club interview and Joe Budden. And first of all, I would like to say no thank you to both of them. See what you did? See what you did? You gave her a pass into the community, apparently. Now, I don't think she's taking up residence in the community, but she's claiming the community. Thanks to y'all. Thanks, y'all. Y'all done went and got your key duplicated, and you're just giving it out willy-nilly. No. We don't do that. We don't do that. That's why you got to get the fancy key to come in our community. We don't do just the regular Slade key. We don't do just the regular standard issue key. We got to have special keys because we got some people in the community like Joe Budden and Charlemagne and DJ Envy over here just giving keys out willy-nilly.
Why?
Now, as far as the media is concerned, so it was the media. It was the media the whole time. The media went and funded and directed a whole George Floyd documentary. It was the media that threatened George Floyd's family. It was the media that went on Capitol Hill and denounced the severity of white nationalism. Did you know that Kanye took a photo wearing a White Lives Matter t-shirt standing next to the media? That is crazy. He was next to them. It was the media. It was the media that called Black Lives Matter an organization full of white men. I think it was the media that whooped Denzel in Glory. I had no idea. And you know what, Candace? You know what? Now your baby shower picture has to be put in a whole new light. I saw this picture, I had thoughts, but now that you let me know that it was the media that intentionally had misled me, now I totally understand. Because people said that you had no black friends, but really you just didn't want anybody from the black community, your community, to feel uncomfortable around all those white people. Now I understand. You were protecting your community and your people because we know how difficult it can be to be the only black. We know how hard it can be to be the only black, and you did not want anybody from your community to feel that level of pain, and so you excluded them entirely. Not to mention the fact that those young ladies probably had never had an opportunity to go to a black baby shower before. They probably never had an opportunity. You wanted them to feel included, so you brought in as many of them as possible. Right? You brought in as many of them as possible so they could feel included. You decided to diversify your baby shower entirely. So you were really doing DEI. You were doing DEI for these young white girls, and really that is to be commended. That is to be commended. Here I am the whole time thinking that you were anti-black. And you know, like, what gave me that idea?
I do not think that we deserve reparations for slavery. I was never a slave in this country, and I think that the idea, if you think that you're going to get more than $200 from the government, okay, this entire debate is just it's a joke, okay? It's never going to happen. Do you think that we're the only group? I'm just going to ask this question that has had something awful happen to them in this country.
That I said today that are actually harming Black America. Number one, father absence. Number two, the education system and the illiteracy rate. Illegal immigration ranks high, abortion ranks high, white supremacy and white nationalism, if I had to make a list again of 100 things, would not be on it.
That the Black community is unique from other communities. Our culture is unique from other communities because we are the only community that caters to the bottom denominator of our society. George Floyd at the time of his arrest was high on fentanyl and he was high on methamphetamine. This came back in both of his autopsy reports. If we're hanging in the wrong crowd, doesn't matter. If we're actively helping our boyfriends move drugs, which is what Breonna Taylor was actually doing, it was not an accident, okay? She was knee deep in drugs. he was not being pursued in the video, obviously. It looked like he was running towards the car. And then when the two people who had guns, he went around and he attacked the person. I feel no compassion whatsoever for Jordan Neely. Let's make that clear. And some of you guys are watching this and you're going to say, well, of course, Candace always feels no compassion for him because he's a black man and she never defends black men. No, I never defend black criminals. Our biggest problem is us, okay? It's why we don't talk about it when black on black crime happens. I had white people coming up to me with tears in their eyes. And I told Kanye this, with tears in their eyes, saying, thank you so much, as if they're the forgotten people, for just allowing us to have our voices back. They've been sitting in silence, completely sidelined, told that they are not allowed to be American because there's a vicious narrative around that somehow black Americans are suffering from policing and therefore white lives can't matter. They do. It's obvious. Kanye was correct, right? So when I cover black people on the show, I'm typically covering them because they are doing something that is idiotic.
The media really is an asshole.
The little Twitter trolls, they like to say, oh, Jesus didn't need an AR-15. How many AR-15s do you think Jesus would have had? Well, he didn't have enough to keep his government from killing him.
Man, they let anybody out on bail these days. So you probably remember the last time we addressed Lauren Boebert.
The establishment concocted a swampy backroom deal to try to rig an election.
Come on now, Lauren. You gonna sit there and act like you don't like a swampy backroom deal? Let's be honest, we all like a swampy backroom deal. You just mad you weren't invited. Well, at least she cleaned up her act.
I'm a fan of Botox, okay? Actually, side note, let's tell a little story here. I may need some more. Yesterday, I was walking on the Capitol Hill complex and this group of students got really excited. And I hear them and they go, hey, that's Nancy Pelosi. Another one says, oh my gosh, yeah, it is. That's Nancy Pelosi. I started looking around. It's me. I'm like, oh Lord, I need some Botox. I don't think I've ever been so insulted in my life.
Well, now, as being widely reported, quote, boozed up Lauren Boebert was cut off by bartender, begged Trump for selfies at GOP gala. And by the way, here's an artist's rendering of the event. Now, this article reads, 3 months after Representative Lauren Boebert apologized for disruptive conduct at a Denver theater, the Colorado Republican attended a glitzy Republican gala headlined by former President Donald Trump in Manhattan, where her behavior once again raised eyebrows. At the December soiree, which was the New York Young Republican Club's annual gala, multiple witnesses saw a server tell Boebert they would not bring her any more alcohol, with one witness telling CNN the server told the Congresswoman they believed she had been overserved, which is a nice, ritzy, corporate way of saying smashed, twisted, lit, or my personal favorite, toe up. Why do y'all don't bring back toe up? I mean, why y'all don't bring back toe up? Toe up was the absolute best way to describe somebody in that condition, and probably my goal for most of my 20s was toe up. Throughout the night, Boebert also kept attempting to snap selfies with Trump, who was sitting at the same table as her. Eventually, Trump's security detail stepped in and asked Boebert to stop, according to the witnesses who attended the event and saw the interaction take place. Now, you would think that somebody who already has on her record everything that happened in that Denver theater, that you might want to play it a little bit cool next time you're at a big fancy event. But, you know, I guess sometimes discretion isn't the better part of valor. Certainly not when entertainment is possible. Says Representative Byron Donalds of Florida, quote, it hasn't encumbered her job performance. Now, he certainly has not met anybody that he won't cape for, but I dare ask you, what job performance?
I do just want to take a few seconds to respond. That was great. You know, we are addressed as MAGA extremists, extreme MAGA Republicans. And I would like to make just a clarification point. It's ultra MAGA. That's what we prefer. Yes. And, but also, Mr. Ranking Member, reclaiming my time, Mr. Ranking Member, I am very happy that you have moved on from pronouns to adjectives. And, you know, when you guys start acting Democratic, I'll be sure to call you Democratic Party.
You mean this job performance? It was also, by the way, the whole reason she gave for why she was switching districts. Well, that and the nonsense about keeping conservative values feeling like Beetlejuice Live. Now, do you know how drunk you gotta be to get cut off at a Donald Trump event? I mean, think about it. Rudy Giuliani is stumbling around. Steve Bannon is stumbling around. Don Jr. and his red nose are stumbling around. Even Roseanne didn't get cut off.
Hey, old bro. How are you doing? I'm here at Mar-a-Lago supporting Carrie Lake, and it was a fantastic evening, and our Trump is here being the DJ, and I've just danced, and everyone's amazed. So I'm just going to say to you, please drop out of college because it's going to ruin your lives. Do me a favor, drop out. They don't teach you nothing good. Email me or Twitter me or whatever you call me, and I'll help you with your life, but you got to get out of college because it isn't nothing but devil-worshipping, baby blood-drinking Democrat donors. Love ya.
By the way, it's good to see she's doing well. She must be getting some good sleep. Look like she is off the Ambien, so her racism should be down. Now, Boebert did receive some good news as the Congresswoman was admitted to a hospital in northern Colorado on Monday after severe swelling in her left leg. Doctors discovered an acute blood clot with a CT scan and diagnosed Boebert with May-Thurner syndrome. She underwent surgery and is expected to make a full recovery thanks to the high-quality health care she receives as a U.S. representative. Health care, mind you, that she is actively trying to deny to you and me. She voted to eliminate Obamacare and kick 21 million Americans off of their health care with nothing to replace it. By the way, the same Obamacare that mandates her diagnosis can't be used to deny her future insurance coverage, you know, assuming Colorado gets on the internet and votes her out in November. Walking around flossing something you don't want other people to have, who she thinks she is? Marjorie Taylor Greene? And if you're wondering, are you always going to bring up Marjorie Taylor Greene in connection with Lauren Boebert? Then you've been watching the channel, and I appreciate you. And definitely, yes, I will. In fact, let's see what our old friend Marge is up to. It's just a regular Tuesday. You racists gotta step your game up. This is tragic. Welcome to Racist of the Week, where we expose the stupidity and hypocrisy of discrimination in hopes we can build a more perfect union. And also laugh. As usual, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Racism. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the page, and definitely leave me any possible suggestions for nominees in the comments. Our first nominee Indiana State University nursing student Asa Blanton. Now, as many of you already know, Beyonce released her country album, Cowboy Carter, and beyond the sales, streams, and records broken, she caused racists to lose their absolute mind. I mean, I gotta ask, is this how we react to Eminem and Paul Wall? Cause I kind of like Eminem and Paul Wall. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I can see people wilding out to Bubba Sparks, maybe, or Everlast, or Yellow Wolf. Actually, I kind of like Yellow Wolf too. Something about that box Chevy. Meet Asa Blanton, feeling cold and alone, keeping all that hate bottled up inside. She just had to let her true feelings be known.
I'm sorry, but if you're black, you're not country. I don't care. And I wish I meant that in the nicest way. But babe, I know you were raised in the country, or your grandparents were, I guess, your great granny and grandpas, but they was picking, okay? They wasn't planting. Just keep that in mind. They wasn't making money. They was getting sold for money. You ain't country. It pisses me off, Mom. Why are you wearing boots and a motherfucking jeans and a cutoff to a frat party? Huh? No.
Oh, where to start with this one? Now, first of all, some of the most country people I know are black. I mean, I got family in the Carolinas that cooks pancakes for breakfast with little bits of pig feet in them. I mean, I had a cousin who used a lasso for a belt, and I was the only one at Walker Mill Middle School in junior high who knew what fixin' to and frenna meant. But none of what you said had to do with actually being country. It was just being white. Like, what exactly is your definition of country? Like, when you go to the Country Music Awards, you just think it's just the white music awards? You feel like all the pop acts and all the white rock acts and all the white rap acts should be there too? That you didn't find that odd? That wasn't weird to you? And also, it was a whole lot of white people that weren't making money either. Do they get to be country? Do poor white people get to be country? Asking for a lot of the country. And what I find most fascinating, what did it take for all this racism to come bubbling up to the surface and exploding out of her mouth like diarrhea? Like what exactly did it take for it? I mean, did she lose a job to a black person? Did black people put hands and feet on her? Did they wrong her mama? Did her man get taken by a black woman? All it took for all of this to come out was a black country album. Like, that's it. That is all it took for her to go full racist. What have you been doing the last few years while Lil Nas X been running around? He was at the Country Music Awards. How has that been like for you? Where were you during the Darius Rucker era? What do you do when Jimmy Allen and Kane Brown and Mickey Guyton and Brittany Spencer come on? It must be hell for you even listening to country music. Then she got to that part about the frat party section. That part was weird. I mean, it actually gave me a little bit of an insight into how this came to be, because she comes off like the lonely outcast that just saw herself jumped in line to hang with the cool kids by the black people who just showed up. We've seen that happen many times. The fact that she's a nursing student actually trumps that all it took was a country album to bring all this bubbling to the surface. That absolutely is the most disturbing part of all of this, because we've heard a lot about racial inequities in our healthcare system, how black women have been treated, how black babies have been treated. And it's been going on for decades. And these are the kinds of people that are entrusted to deal with black patients, the kinds of people that have this just bubbling underneath the surface. And all it takes is Cowboy Carter to bring it out. She had the good judgment to throw all that away because she just had to go racist on Cowboy Carter. That's somebody who could have been taking care of your mom or my grandma. By the way, the fact that I mentioned Indiana State University was intentional because they haven't seen fit to right this wrong. There is a petition to have her removed from the Indiana State nursing program. I wouldn't promote doing such a thing The link will be in the description of this video. Now, she's actually in very good company this week as our second nominee for Racist of the Week, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Now, during the legendary Women's March Madness, shout out to the ladies because y'all killed it. But the University of Utah's women's basketball team was repeatedly subjected to racial harassment. School officials said a driver pulled up by them, revved their engine, and yelled the N-word. Then later the same night, 2 trucks approached them and the drivers yelled the N-word again. This all happened while they were merely going for dinner before one of their games. Here's their coach, Lynn Roberts, addressing the incident.
You know, we had several instances of some kind of racial hate crimes towards our program, and incredibly upsetting for all of us. And, you know, you think in our worlds, that, you know, in athletics and in university settings, it's shocking. You know, like there's so much diversity on a college campus, and so you're just not exposed to that very often. And so when you are, it's like, you know, and you have people say, man, I can't believe that happened. But, you know, racism is real.
Now, Coeur d'Alene has a long history with hate groups in the area, but it was chosen because the hotel near the tournament was full, and also because they assumed civilization had hit it already. I don't think that's too much to ask, but apparently it was. Hey, Coeur d'Alene, let me holler at you for a second. Let me holler at you. It's only gonna take a second. See, if they would have said we can't keep the team here because y'all are too racist, if they would have intentionally avoided keeping any of the teams by Coeur d'Alene because of y'all history with hate groups, y'all would have been mad, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? You would have been mad. How dare they say that about us? We're just people. You would have been mad if they avoided you because y'all were too racist. Now look how y'all act. I mean, honestly, you think anybody wanted to come to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho? You think anybody wanted to come out here? They just came out here to bring y'all some good old-fashioned entertainment, to give y'all a break from cow tipping and hay bale fights and shoe shuffling, and I don't know what y'all do out there. They wanted to give y'all a break and show y'all some women's basketball, and this is how y'all act. They even tried to help you out. They didn't give you South Carolina. They didn't give you USC. They gave you Utah. They gave you Utah. They gave you sugar in your medicine. And even still then, you couldn't help but go and end bombs. Now, local authorities are now investigating the incident. And to that I say, if a place with a long history of hate groups has that happen on a random night twice, good luck finding the guilty parties. Because it doesn't sound like the overt racists will stand out in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. My last nominee, the United Kingdom. Both the Jamie Lloyd Company and the Duke of York Theatre shared a statement of support for actress Francesca Amawuda Rivers after she and the theater have been flooded with racist online abuse after she committed the crime of landing the role of Juliet alongside Tom Holland as Romeo. Now, to those of you racist trolls out here sending all this nasty stuff, have y'all seen Romeo and Juliet? I'm just asking, like, have you seen Romeo and Juliet? Nothing about Romeo and Juliet makes you think that interracial casting might have been okay. I mean, a love story about two people from clans that don't get along because they're so different. None of that struck you as it might land with having a black woman play Juliet? Nothing? Because you were so used to white people playing everybody, you just forgot the plot of Romeo and Juliet and how suited it is to have a black woman play Juliet or a black man play Romeo, whatever the case may be. Now, I find it fascinating. These trolls didn't even have the wherewithal to hide the reason for their objection. They didn't say that she was too tall. They didn't say she wasn't good enough. They didn't talk about her singing. No, they went straight for looks. I mean, straight for looks. I mean, UK racism is barbaric because you are coming with 19th century racism in 2024. You are actually arguing that you don't want the best person for the job. She has to look a certain way. And to that, I'm gonna need you to pick up your phone and call your cousins over here, the US racists, and y'all need to figure this out. Talk about a mess. Congratulations to Asa Bland and Idaho State University. Yes, you are here until further notice. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and the UK trolls. If you got somebody you would like to nominate, go ahead and leave it in the comments. You can email me at reese.waters@gmail.com and be sure to subscribe to the page and make sure you get notified when the next video drops. The NAACP advises black student athletes against attending any state universities in Florida. Now, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, NAACP. That's what I'm talking about. Last month, the University of Florida announced the termination of all DEI positions and the closure of its office of the Chief Diversity Officer. This sweeping action resulted in the elimination of 13 full-time staff positions and 15 administrative faculty appointments. Now, the catalyst for this decision, you know what it was. It was the new state regulation championed by Governor Ron DeSantis, prohibiting the allocation of state funds for DEI programs. Now, the regulation defines DEI activities as those that categorize individuals based on factors like race, color, sex, national origin, gender identity, or sexual orientation, even if those particular activities are trying to combat discrimination based on race, color, sex, national origin, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Got it. By restricting universities from investing in initiatives aimed at fostering inclusivity and support for marginalized communities, the regulation threatens to perpetuate environments historically unwelcoming to these groups. And I would say doesn't necessarily threaten to, I would say it intends to. Less than 27% of students at the University of Florida come from underrepresented groups, which includes Black, Latino, Native American, Native Hawaiian, or Pacific Islanders, according to its 2022 diversity data. Roughly 5%, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5% of the 2022 class was Black. Yes, Florida, 5%. Yeah, Uncle Luke, Florida. Trick Daddy, Florida. Kodak Black, Florida. Lil Duval, Florida. As of the 2010 U.S. Census, African Americans, by the way, are 16.6% of the state's population, but that 5% in the class, yeah, that was too much for Ron DeSantis, apparently. Like, what's going on? Is this an HBCU? That's crazy. I mean, I could deal with 3, but we up to 5? Now, expressing his satisfaction with the decision, Governor DeSantis took to Twitter to denounce DEI initiatives as toxic and unfit for public universities, because of course he feels pleased with himself. I guess he needed a win after Trump kicked the dead corpse of his presidential campaign.
One of the people said, are you going to run against the president? He said, I have no comment. To me, that meant he's running. So I hit him hard. I hit him low. I hit him high, just like we did to ISIS. We hit him hard. We hit him low. We hit him high. We hit him in the middle. We hit him from on top, and we even came under the ground. We hit this guy so hard, by the time he announced, nobody knew what the hell happened. They said, what happened to him? He's a shell of the man.
And he didn't even invite you to stand behind him at rallies with the rest of the mean girls. No wonder the NAACP lists Florida as, quote, unsafe for Black Americans, alongside driving without a webcam and and Popeye's biscuit, no drink. Their own website reads, "Let's be clear, Florida has a goal to erase Black history and restrict diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in Florida schools. Florida is openly hostile towards African Americans, people of color, and LGBTQ+ individuals." Not only is that not in question, I think Ron DeSantis would probably put that on a t-shirt if he could. He would put it on the Florida travel website. He celebrated on Twitter, "DEI is toxic and has no place in our public universities. I'm glad that Florida was the first state to eliminate DEI, and I hope more states follow suit." No better place to call something toxic than the peaceful, open timeline of Twitter. But the NAACP went farther in a letter addressed to NCAA President Charlie Baker. The NAACP advises Black student athletes against attending any state universities in Florida. Now, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, NAACP. That's what I'm talking about. They write, "To all current and prospective college student athletes, the NAACP urges you to reconsider any potential decision to attend and compete at a predominantly white institution in the state of Florida. This is not about politics. This is about the protection of our community, the progression of culture, and most of all, it's about your education and your future. Florida's rampant anti-Black policies are a direct threat to the advancement of our young people and their ability to compete in a global economy. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are paramount to ensuring equitable and effective educational outcomes. The value Black and other college athletes bring to large universities is unmatched. If these institutions are unable to completely invest in those athletes, it's time they take their talents elsewhere." That's right, take your talent out of South Beach. While it's our duty to spread awareness and encourage action around these egregious assaults, we also recognize that protests can come at a price. The sad reality is, for many Black student athletes, collegiate sports may be their sole opportunity at achieving the upward mobility necessary to propel them into their rightful places in society. Now, that last part is important because I've often wondered about why in so many states that work against the goodwill of Black people, that never becomes a liability when it's time to recruit Black bodies. I don't know Nick Saban. He hasn't been specifically problematic, but Alabama has. At the same time, he and his very Black Crimson Tide brought unprecedented success and money to the state. Now, why should they get both? You get to work against our best interests and take advantage of our talents as well. Now, if Saban had to answer some of those questions while he's sitting in recruits' living rooms, things might go a little bit different. And speaking of Alabama, Birmingham Mayor Randall Woodfin said he'd encourage Black athletes and their parents to avoid Alabama schools if state Republicans succeed in their push to ban DEI programs there, writing, "To the leadership, athletic directors, and coaches at University of Alabama Athletics, Auburn University, and UAB, the University of Alabama at Birmingham, do you support this prohibition of diversity and inclusion? To the parents of minority athletes who are helping their children decide if they want to play sports at those institutions, would you be cool with your child playing at schools where diversity among staff is actively being discouraged? Although I'm the biggest Bama fan, I have no problem organizing Black students and athletes to attend other institutions outside of the state where diversity and inclusion are prioritized." Bam! And let's not act like these coaches don't have influence. That's why in so many cases, they're the highest paid state employees. Then again, maybe Tricky Nick Saban saw the writing on the wall and that's why he got out. He like, y'all not about to debate me about DEI at a Detroit kitchen table. Save that for Dabo Swinney at Clemson, who is the worst, by the way.
Some of these people need to move to another country. I think a lot of things in this world were only a dream for Martin Luther King. Not a one-term, but a two-term African-American president. And this is a terrible country. That was a dream for Martin Luther King.
The worst. Every time I see a Black Clemson player, I get mad. But I do understand because of the gatekeepers and the potential carrot on the other end. This is a path to generational wealth for these kids, and there are only so many spots available. So if you have to suck up dealing with Sweeney saying to move to another country or that racism is dead as he misquotes MLK, then so be it. I don't like it, but I get it. And that's why I have to stop short of focusing on individual kids, but speak to the body at large. It doesn't have to be every kid. It only takes a few to make your anti-blackness a liability. Don't believe me? Take it from Florida great Emmitt Smith, the NFL's all-time leading rusher and 2010 NFL Hall of Fame inductee who played for the Florida Gators from 1987 to 1989, who posted, "I'm utterly disgusted by UF's decision and the precedent it sets. Without the DEI department, the job falls on the office of the provost, who already has their hands full to raise money for the university and continue to advance the academic studies and athletic programs. Instead of showing courage and leadership, we continue to fail based on systemic issues, and with this decision, UF has conformed to the political pressures of today's time. To many minority athletes at UF, please be aware and vocal about this decision by the university, who's now closing doors on other minorities without any oversight." And you know what? He's right. And that's also the first big win the Cowboys have gotten since he stepped off the field. But I digress. Business Insider ranks the University of Alabama 4th and the University of Florida 12th nationally in annual revenue generated from athletics. Florida's athletic department made more than $190 million during its 2022 fiscal year. Yet when University of Southern California professor Sean Harper last updated his study of black male athletes at Power 5 conferences back in 2018, he found that black male athletes were more overrepresented at Florida than at any other school. Black men were 2.2% of undergraduates at Florida, yet comprised 77.7% of football and men's basketball teams. Yes, 2.2% and 77.7%. That discrepancy tells you a whole lot, and it comes with a whole lot of weight. I know you guys have a lot of thoughts on this issue, so let me know what you think down in the comments, or you can always send me an email at reese.waters@gmail.com.
Every day I look at the mailbox for my OJ prize, nothing.
How do you remember somebody who was acquitted for a crime and then turns around The Simpson family released a statement reading, "On April 10th, our father, Orenthal James Simpson, succumbed to his battle with cancer. He was surrounded by his children and grandchildren. During this time of transition, his family asks that you please respect their wishes for privacy and grace. Signed, the Simpson family." How am I supposed to react to this? I mean, how did you react to this? I mean, I was raised with don't speak ill of the dead, but that clearly wasn't everybody. I mean, how do you remember somebody who was acquitted for a crime and then turns around?
If you promise that you will not ask me another question about the case,
I will never ask you again.
We won't have to talk about it anymore.
Just did you do it?
No, I didn't. Nope, did not do it.
After we finished filming, OJ said to me that he had a surprise for me, and I genuinely was surprised. I think it was his idea of a joke. And this is it.
I mean, I wasn't alive during OJ's playing days, so I don't have those memories. And I was barely alive during his rise in sports media, so I don't really have those memories. So most of what I remember about OJ begins with this.
Mrs. Robinson. Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA097211. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the Penal Code Section 187.
That I remember. The celebration that I participated in as a preteen, that a black man was acquitted. And remembering that was when I knew that I had to say something. I was very conflicted because part of me was like, well, this isn't really in your purview. This isn't really the kind of stuff that you talk about on this particular channel. But it dovetails with a lot of things I talk about on this particular channel. The criminal justice system, racial inequities, how the black community reacts to people who want to move in and out when it suits them. I mean, I just recorded 2 videos on Candace Owens. So how can I not respond to OJ's passing? Now, the best thing I've ever heard about OJ Simpson was actually from Chris Rock. No, I know what you're thinking. No, not every day I look in the mailbox, my OJ prize, nothing. I wasn't sophisticated back then. I did mention I was a preteen. I didn't realize how conscious the decision was to paint him as a black martyr, like the note from Ezra Edelman's incredible documentary OJ Made in America that talks about the defense actually going in his house and removing the art and all the pictures that OJ had up and replacing them with Afrocentric ones before the jury was brought in to see it. They Dr. Umar'd OJ's home.
You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious?
Johnnie Cochran expertly harnessed years of racial frustration and used that as paint to brush OJ as the embodiment of the black experience, despite the very intentional distance he had created and maintained for years with the black community. As purposeful as it was for the defense to paint him as a black martyr, it was every bit as purposeful years earlier for OJ to paint himself as the anti-conscious black, you know, one of the good ones, a pick-me, if you will. In fact, he didn't consider himself one of the ones at all. One of the other notes to come from the documentary is the quote, "I'm not black, I'm OJ." Just think about that. He's not trying to come to the cookout. He's not ignoring the cookout. He thinks he's too good for the cookout. The cookout is beneath him. He's OJ. Now, I will say there is value in being the first black. OJ broke through barriers on the field, but especially off the field when it comes to the commercial possibilities of a black face. People seeing a black face, whether it's on the TV screen, whether it's on a poster on the wall, whether it's on a cereal box, is valuable. We talk about the value of representation. Now, it's much more valuable if, in fact, that face is opening the door for other faces to come in and follow them. But when you see a face on a cereal box, you don't know if that face is conscious or not. You just see that that face is black. But still.
Every day I look at the mailbox for my OJ prize, nothing.
There were so many people who could never afford Johnnie Cochran, but were much more deserving of that defense. I mean, Rodney King just happened. Latasha Harlins just happened. And that's just in LA. It was built on real life pain and real life inequity that OJ would never acknowledge or work to eradicate.
Every day I look at the mailbox for my OJ prize, nothing.
But what it did do was give people something to point to and say, hey, see, it's not racist. The system isn't broken, and then go about business as usual. Well, sorta. While he was acquitted, he was treated like a pariah for the rest of his life, which was very black. So much for respecting the courts. I don't think the Rodney King cops had to deal with the same scarlet letter. But as far as the criminal justice system, yeah, it was very much business as usual. Now, there's an assumption that black people mostly thought OJ was innocent, and that was the reason for the celebration. And you can go ahead and kill all that noise if it hasn't been killed already. Many people just wanted their lick back after years of taking it on the chin. I just wish it was a much better lick. Now, whether you think he's guilty or not, we are all guilty of drinking the juice. Oh, Caitlyn Jenner, I know you ain't talking. We know what you did.